Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Razak at CMTrading. Today is November 6, 2015, and today is Friday. So this is the first Friday of the month, and that means non-farm payroll. So that's coming out at 3:30 this afternoon. Obviously, that is a big USD number. As well, we're having at the same time Canadian dollar coming out with unemployment change that time at 3:30 p.m. South African time. So let's look at the graphs. Let's specifically look at the Euro USD because usually that's the go-to pairs when trading the Euro USD, when trading the USD. So looking here at the Euro USD, we're at this threshold of 108.45. This is a support level. We've breached 110, as you can see right here, and obviously not going higher than 114, briefly just touching in at 117. But ultimately, we've been trading in this range for about 4 months. Between 114 and 108. So, the question is where we're going to go from here. So there's a few scenarios that I presented and I prepared. And if you will review them, these are some possibilities, the NFP possibilities. This is my chart. This is the way I prepare for a NFP. And we have a few scenarios here. We have scenario number one where it's a classic fade, which means that it either rallies very high for about 100 pips, something like that, and then it goes down 100 pips. And that's, that could either go up or down, but there's an immediate correction right after the first move. That's called a classic fade. So you don't historically trade the first part of the move, but you trade the second part of the move. The scenario number two is gap up and go, where we rally, let's say 150 points, and then we just inch up higher for the rest of the day. The flip side of that is scenario number three, where we tank, we go down about 100 pips, or 150 pips, whatever it is, and then we continually trickle down. And then scenario number four is nothing happens, but that generally doesn't really happen, okay? Generally, something happens, okay? So I'm more inclined to think that scenario number one or scenario number two is going to happen, and I explain to you, if we look at the chart, coming back to the chart here, if we look at the bottom of the chart at the bottom here is showing 108, and that's been a previous support system for the Euro USD once before, a little bit of a resistance before. So I'm more inclined to think that we're going to hold this level and bounce off of it. And there's no catalyst to tell me that we're going to go down further in the Euro. So so I'm more inclined to think that we're going to bounce and then maybe we do a correction or bounce and then go. But that's my personal trade. I'm not at all suggesting that somebody should trade this, but that's the positions that I would understand will go. But again, you always have to use stop losses and be very careful to maintain and manage your trade accordingly. Especially not going in full in. I don't want to hear anybody say, Fred told us to do this. I'm not telling you. I'm just suggesting that, based on the information that we're seeing, we may see a bounce this afternoon from 108. So, this is something to keep an eye on, and obviously the Dow Jones is also something to keep an eye on as we've rallied, over 2,000 points since September, the end of September, and now we're holding at the beginning of November. So the times are a little bit off. Usually we have a correction in October. The correction happened a little bit earlier. The rally is happening a little bit later. So things are a little bit off than what we know classically in the markets. So right now we're trading at 17,787. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily a threshold, but it's close to a threshold. It's close enough to a threshold. And we had this rally. So I would imagine that there would be a correction in the Dow Jones, maybe a little bit of a sell-off today, excuse me, and see what's going to happen there. Excuse me. Looking at the GBP Japanese yen, we've tanked here and we're slowly just trickling down. This is what we're talking about, where you can, we could see a scenario like this, where something tanks and then continues to trickle down. And this happened yesterday, obviously, with the GBP number that came out and Carney speaking. Looking at oil, oil's trading in the middle of the range here at $45.42. Also honoring its resistance and support levels, as you can see, at $47 and $44 respectively. Looking at gold, Gold bouncing just a little bit after this huge sell-off, almost 1,000 points, 190 points, excuse me, not 1,000 points. I got to get my right symbols in place. Selling off 189 points is quite a sell-off. So we saw that it happened here, and it's a big sell-off. So to see this little green bar is not much of a compensation, especially when we've sold so much off. So to say that this is a turnaround, perhaps it is. I wouldn't buy this right away, but I'd like to see it get a little bit stronger and a little bit firmer before jumping in. Looking at the USD CAD here, flatlined here, obviously before the number. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with the CAD. I wouldn't trade the USD CAD. I'd probably trade the Euro USD versus the number today and the Dow Jones. This is Fred Razak, and I want to wish you guys a great trading day and a beautiful weekend. Thank you.